right, welcome in, folks. Mount Polumbus Speaks here. A little special edition. David Adelman is now the new head coach of your Denver Nuggets. Round of applause for David Adelman. Congratulations. You coached, 17 games with the Nuggets, 14 in the playoffs, I believe, and 3 in the regular season. And that was enough for Josh Kroenke to name David Adelman the head coach of the Denver Nuggets. So I'm really going to be curious to have an interactive experience with you guys here tonight. I really want to know where you guys stand on David Adelman, if you think the Nuggets did the right thing or not. Josh Kroenke was a little bit more clear of the fact that, I shouldn't say a little bit more clear, but he was very clear of the fact that, yes, he is going to name David Adelman the head coach of the Nuggets, but he's going to take his time with the GM. And he's going to look outside the building. They might even hire an outside firm to help them with the GM search. But the head coach has been decided. So that's obviously the breaking news that we'll get into tonight. But before we get started, need to take a quick second here to thank my friends over at Safeway for being the title sponsor of Mount Polumbus Speaks. Couldn't do it without them. Safeway is an incredible company. Matter of fact, I was over at Safeway today. They had a really fun deal. Bagging challenge is my 5th year running. I'm a one-time champion of a bagging challenge. Safeway's got some incredible employees over there, and they employ a lot of special needs folks. And these folks have been working there for 20, 25 years. My partner today, Michael, been over there for 20 years, and it's a blast to work with them. But anyways, with Memorial Day just right around the corner here, you want to make sure you get set up for all your grilling needs, and Safeway is your spot you want to go to. Go get some T-bone steaks, sweet corn on the cob. Maybe you need some wood chips for the smoker, whatever it is that you need. Safeway's got you covered. Safeway, fresh foods and local flavors. By the way, if you don't have the Safeway app on your phone, you're missing out. Make sure you download that Safeway app today. Skip those delivery service apps and just order directly from Safeway's app. You're going to save a boatload of money. They make it super easy. Before you blink your eye, it's going to be sitting at your doorstep. Okay. I'm happy for David Adelman. I am. Seems like a really just jovial dude, first off. So my sincere congratulations to David Adelman. He has got pretty cool mannerisms on the sideline, and I respect it. You know, he doesn't seem like he's ever overwhelmed by the moment. He doesn't seem like he's going to be a dog cusser or a screamer. And in today's day and age, it feels like that's the direction that most teams are going. Shoot. All the teams that had interim head coaches this year in the NBA, they all hired their interim coaches. It's pretty wild. Pretty unusual for interim head coaches to actually get hired. And this year, I don't know what it is, but the current trend in the NBA is to go young, and these teams are all hiring from within. You know, this is the most important hiring the Nuggets have had in years and years and years. I mean, you just fired the greatest coach in the history of the franchise in Michael Malone. And there was a part of me that thought the Nuggets would take their time. I tweeted after Game 7 that I think David Adelman had done enough to earn the job with the Nuggets. And I'm glad that he got it. But I also thought that given the importance of this hiring, given how long it's been since the Nuggets have hired a coach, I thought they really might take a little bit of time here and open this thing up. Look, you only get one shot at this, and you hope you're not going to do it again for another 10, 12 years. You got a long run out of Michael Malone. If we get the same type of run out of David Adelman, that would be phenomenal. And given how long it's been since the Nuggets have needed a new head coach, I would not have been surprised if they took their sweet time and they opened it up and they had a nationwide search. They did not, though. They saw enough. David Adelman did enough in Josh Kroenke's eyes, Stan Kroenke's eyes, to be named the head coach of the Denver Nuggets. Now, There were a couple things that Josh made very, very clear in today's presser. And one of them, in my opinion, is that you're going to have the same starting five back next year. Did he directly say that? No, but indirectly, he said that 4 or 5 different times. Indirectly, he said that this roster should have won a championship, and if you don't win a championship, that's disappointing. Indirectly, he said that they've got a group that is capable of winning championships. And there were reports that came out right before the presser today that the Nuggets would be very hesitant to move on from any of their core members. Now, who's a core member? I guess that's up to debate, but obviously Nikola Jokic is a core member. Jamal Murray's a core member. Aaron Gordon's a core member. I think Christian Brown's a core member, and I think Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke really like Michael Porter Jr. So Michael Porter Jr. is probably a core member. I just gave you 5 dudes. They're all 5 starters. They're all 5 probably going to be back next year, which you may or may not like as a Nuggets fan. I mean, I get it if you feel like it's time to change this up. I get it if you want to trade Michael Porter Jr. Good luck. I mean, how? For what? He's making $30 million a year. He's got debilitating back issues. He's got a drop foot issue. He had a shoulder issue in the playoffs. And he doesn't produce very well in the playoffs. Now, regular season, Michael Porter Jr. actually produced really well. He always does. Playoffs seems to be a different conversation for whatever reason. So, going to be really, really difficult to trade Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray making max money, and he's not an all-star. That's going to be difficult to move on from if you wanted to. Aaron Gordon, maybe single-handedly the best trade in Denver Nuggets history. That's a core member you don't want to move on from. Christian Brown, I love Christian Brown, and I do not want to trade Christian Brown. I'm not sitting here saying I want to move on from Christian, but ironically, of your 5 starters, Christian kind of makes the most sense in terms of value that he's got and what you could get in return. Could you improve your team by trading Jamal Murray? I don't think so. I don't think you're going to get anything back in return that's going to improve your team. Michael Porter Jr., I mean, if you just wanted to get rid of him, you could get rid of him, I guess. But you're probably not going to improve your team. Christian Brown's the only one that's got pretty unique value right now that you might be able to add some pretty solid depth pieces if that's what you were going after. But again, I don't think they're going to trade Christian Brown. I don't think they're going to trade any of their guys. I think you've got your same starting 5 coming back next year. And what Josh made pretty clear at his presser, time to develop these young guys. So, guys like Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, even Zeke Naji. Why did Michael Malone and Calvin Booth get fired? Like, obviously there's a lot of reasons. Obviously they were underperforming. But one of the biggest reasons was that they could not get on the same page behind closed doors. They didn't have the same vision. Michael Malone wanted to play Russell Westbrook a lot of minutes every single night. Calvin Booth said, hey, man, I drafted you some young players. I need you to play these young players early in the season so that we can develop these guys. The Nuggets don't have a draft pick. So good luck getting more depth. Now, Josh Kroenke said today that they're going to work hard to figure out how to get a draft pick this year. So somebody's getting traded. I don't know who that is. Somebody's getting traded because they want to get themselves a draft pick. How much would Drawn Holmes have made a difference for the Nuggets this year? I don't know, but it'll be nice to get him back. Here's what I do know. Whoever the next GM for the Nuggets is, him and David Adelman, they're going to be on the same page. And that's going to be, we've got a starting 5 that's capable of winning a championship. Heck, you just went to 7 games against Oklahoma City, and if you're a Nuggets fan, You should hope that Oklahoma City blows Minnesota out the doors, man. Blow them out the doors. You should hope Oklahoma City doesn't lose another game. You should hope Oklahoma City just rolls to a championship. Because if they roll to a championship and they make it easy, well, that looks pretty good for the Denver Nuggets. That means the Nuggets were a whole lot closer than most people gave them credit for. And that's what Josh made clear today. He likes that starting five. So next season, expect Zeke Naji to play a lot of basketball. Expect Julian Strawther to play a lot of basketball. Expect Jalen Pickett to play a lot of basketball. Expect Ron Holmes to play a lot of basketball. Whether they're having success or whether they're not having success early in the season, I believe it's going to be different. I think that's one of the things that they like about David Adelman is they're saying, okay, can we trust you to actually develop these younger players? Whereas Michael Malone just didn't have the patience for it. And that's always a catch-22 as a head coach because you gotta win games. Early in the season even, you got to win games. So where's that fine line of developing young players that need time to play so that they can get better versus how much are they hurting the basketball team right now? But I would expect early in the season, whether Zeke Naji's playing good basketball, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett's playing good basketball or not, these guys are going to play significant minutes throughout the entire season. Because the only hope the Nuggets have of winning a championship next year, it's developing the current guys on the roster. You just don't have the ammunition to go get much better on the bench. You're probably going to maintain the same starting five, and you don't have a draft pick. So what choice do you have but to develop the young players that are currently on your basketball team? And I don't think Michael Malone had the patience for that. So that's probably the biggest difference between David Adelman and Michael Malone. Little bit surprised that they hired David Adelman before they hired a GM because David's a young guy. He's a first-timer that's never done it. Usually if you hire the head coach before the GM, it means that the head coach has got all of the power. So that GM is now going to work for the head coach, not vice versa. That GM is there just simply to be a supplementary role of the head coach's vision. But that's not going to be the case with David Adelman. Whatever GM they're going to hire, I think that GM's going to have a lot of say. And I think David Adelman's job is going to be to execute that GM's vision. You know, you could go one or two ways. You could hire a big-name head coach and a first-time GM. You could hire a first-time GM and a big-name GM. What did I say? First-time head coach and a big-name GM. I don't know if I said that right or not, but I think you guys get the point. You could do one or the other. And I think the Nuggets are going to look for a very experienced GM. But I don't know, man. I mean, maybe they just go with first-timers in both spots. And maybe they just say, all we want is cohesiveness. And Josh Kroenke said at the press conference when they let go of Michael Malone that one thing that he felt like he did wrong was he wasn't present in the building enough. So if Josh Kroenke is going to be present more in the building, then I guess it makes sense that you don't need a big-name GM. I do think that they'll bring in a president of operations this year that will report to Josh Kroenke. Maybe that president is the GM, or maybe it's two different roles. But I think there'll be a president of operations for the Denver Nuggets. I'm excited to see what the vision looks like. I think that if there was one concern with hiring David Adelman, it would be, did you shake it up? Is everybody going to be comfortable? And usually when you fire a head coach and a GM, both of those guys at the same time, you're telling everybody in that building, hey, you better straighten up your back and you better be nervous because if the head coach and the GM could go, you certainly could be next. But that doesn't appear to be the message that's coming out of that building. If anything, it seems to be the opposite. Hey, we like what we got. So my only question with David Adelman would be, are these guys too comfortable? And I don't know the answer to that. I think these guys really respect David Adelman. Talking to Scott Hastings, Scott says that David is very stern on the sideline. He takes control. And maybe that's something that we don't need to be worried about. But sometimes I worry about Jamal Murray specifically. I worry, is he motivated early in the season or not? Is he too comfortable? And that's one thing that they're going to have to watch, because keep in mind, David Adelman used to be an assistant coach to these guys. To Jamal Murray, he used to be the assistant. So do these guys look at him with the authority and with the respect that they need to? I hope so, and I think so. Obviously, Josh Kroenke thinks so, or else he wouldn't have hired David Adelman. Josh said something interesting today, that what he thought was going to happen if they did not fire Michael Malone, he thought they would be playing in the play-in game and that they would probably lose it. The Nuggets wouldn't even make it to the playoffs this year if he didn't fire Michael Malone. So if that's what he really thought with 3 games left in the season, and then David Adelman takes over and you get that bounce that you got going into the playoffs in a really positive direction, it really shouldn't be a surprise that Josh Kroenke likes David Adelman a lot. He didn't take that much time to think about it, you know? I mean, Western Conference Finals aren't even over. Not even there. And you already hired a new head coach. So Josh Kroenke likes the vision of David Adelman, and I guess that should be all that we really need to know. I keep saying Josh. Obviously, it's Josh and Stan Kroenke, but Josh is kind of the front man. We'll see, man. Like I said, the only concern is, will these players give David Adelman the respect that he deserves, and will they have the fear that sometimes is needed when it's time to shake things up, that I could be next? It's going to be a really challenging job for the next GM. You've kind of already been told the vision and the direction by the owner. He doesn't really want to move on from his starting 5. So you don't have a whole lot of options there, and you don't have any draft picks. So you have to get super creative with your bench. And you got to bring in some assistant coaches that know how to develop. That's the key. You got to bring in some really, really good assistant coaches, because those assistants are the ones that spend the most amount of time with the bench players that know how to develop these guys. Because if the Nuggets have a chance of winning a championship next year, it's going to be because Jalen Pickett and Julian Strawther really developed. Payton Watson. I never even mentioned Payton Watson. That's my fault. Zeke Naji. The starting 5 is capable of winning a championship. They are. And Josh Kroenke knows that, and I agree with him. It's simply a matter of, if you keep the same starting 5, is there any way to improve the bench? Or do you have to get rid of one of your starting 5 so that you can get more depth on the bench? That's the challenge that the new GM is going to have. And if you were going to let go of one of the starting 5, who would it be? I mean, obviously, I think the majority of our preference would be Michael Porter Jr., but I just think that's very difficult. So maybe it's Christian Braun. And we all love Christian Braun, man. We all love him. Anyways, congratulations to David Adelman. Appreciate you guys tuning in for Mount Polumbus Speaks here tonight. Hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday night here. And make sure that you guys go check out Safeway for all of your Memorial Day needs. Download that Safeway app today and go get all your grilling fixins over at Safeway before Memorial Day weekend. I'll be back with you guys soon. Mount